Good evening, everybody. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Von Rudenberg.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Canestrino. Here. Deputy Mayor Sims, absent. Councilmember Battaglia. Here. Mayor LaBrus.
Here.
This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et sec. Notice having been published according to law with a copy on file in the city clerk's office and a copy posted on the bulletin board in City Hall.
Okay, would everybody please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And with that, I would turn it over to the city manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and invited guests. This is the Committee of the Whole agenda for May 21st, 2019. First on the agenda is a presentation and discussion from Fran Reiner for DMR for the M&M building. Fran?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you. I had Allison hand out 11 by 17s with a 8.5 by 11. There is a large board on the right that shows what we're discussing. We were asked to take a look at and provide a draft of what could be an interior furniture layout for what is the M&M building, which is completing construction. They're doing punch lists as we speak. So what we've provided here is on the 8.5 by 11 Excel spreadsheet is a list of the furniture that we were told the city was interested in potentially considering for placing into the M&M building. So what we've done on the left is to identify what the specific item is by area. So we have identified the kitchen, common areas, multi-purpose room, the senior center room, and the divided multi-purpose room, as well as the gymnasium, and then listed what the city had told us were some of their desired furniture for the building. And then on the right, we've identified kind of where we are in process. A lot of this has to be determined by the city and in terms of what they would like to use the rooms for and have the room put in those rooms. But on the plan itself, on the 11 by 17, you can see that the three rooms identified on the right of the plan, starting at the top, that represents the senior center. So what we've identified is some couches and tables, a TV located there, and then some freestanding tables, as well as some freestanding bookshelves that would fit into that room. So the idea here is to show you the number of pieces of furniture that could fit in relation to the size of the room, just as a starting basis for you to consider. In the double divided room, which is the multi-purpose room, there are 9 tables shown. Those are based on an 8-foot table, which we were told within the last few days that is the size of the table that you had. So we wanted to show how many tables could fit in that room with the existing tables that you have. We actually had done a layout with some smaller tables, 5-foot tables, and we were able to achieve 12 sets. So if you keep the existing tables, you would be able to get 9 in. If you purchase new tables that are 5-foot, you'd be able to get 12, but the seating numbers are approximately the same in terms of what that room could fit. And then on the bottom right side is what is also a multi-purpose room, but intended to be, this is where the glass wall is, more of a community type of room for kids. And so what we've identified in that room is in the top, you have 2 rectangles, one closest to the interior wall. That is the size of a pool table, regulation size pool table. Then you have 2 tables located in the center. Those are 5-foot tables with seating around it. And then the rectangle below is a pool table. And so what we wanted to do was simply provide you with a floor plan of furniture, and so the city would then have to make some decisions. We did have a preliminary meeting with the city and with the rec department and talked about the various items identified in this Excel spreadsheet. But it's really up to the city in terms of how they want to program the rooms, and we're happy to come back once the final program decisions are made and show you how that furniture could fit into the rooms.
Okay.
I mean, do you want to go
Comments?
down this list of stuff, folks? And
Yeah,
Want me to go
we can
through
do
it?
this.
could we?
Sure, absolutely.
And if we have questions about each one?
Absolutely. So in the kitchen, we have identified 3 items: the refrigerator, freezer, which would be a side by side. There is a location, there is an area in the kitchen that allows for the space of a refrigerator. So in speaking with the city at our meeting, it was indicated that the city would determine the type and model. The opening is approximately 64 inches, so it could be a side-by-side fridge with a low freezer. It could be a side fridge with a side freezer. You know, at our meeting, we discussed whether or not there should be an additional storage freezer, one of those ones that sit on the ground, the long ones that opens up in one of the storage rooms. So as a potential, if the city were to purchase, say, ice cream for the summer, they wouldn't have to buy it at a small amount. They could buy a large amount, store it in the freezer, and that freezer could be placed in one of the adjacent storage rooms. So those would be 2 items. There was an ask about whether or not a deep fryer could go in the kitchen. And it's as we've indicated in the past, and we've spoken to the building department, a deep fryer would not be permitted by code to be in the kitchen as is.
On the refrigerators, we're going to need a commercial size refrigerator. I mean,
Yes.
that's about what they run, 64 wide or 60 wide or?
Yeah, so they run from 54 to 64, so we've given
Okay.
you the largest dimension so that you could fit it in there.
All right, but there definitely wouldn't be room there for a refrigerator and a freezer separate.
no.
Right, so if we did the freezer, it'd have to be in the other room.
Yes, yes. Or if you could do a combo fridge freezer and not do the freezer in the other room. It's just that it probably wouldn't be enough to purchase enough items long-term to store there. Like, for ice cream's the easiest one to talk about.
Has there ever been any discussion about having vending machines in that area? Like, you know, when folks are there and maybe that kitchen isn't open, like to get drinks and things? And Leo had brought this up, like as an easy way to,
We have not discussed any vending machines. I will tell you that the gymnasiums we usually are involved with do not want food in the gym floor, especially sugary drinks, because if they spill on the floor, it becomes an issue from a cleaning standpoint. But certainly there's plenty of room in the atrium and the large hallway to allow for vending machines. In
anybody
terms
else
of the
have questions on the kitchen? Leo, you had some questions now?
So in terms of the common area, which this would be the hallway and the atrium area, the entry atrium, there was a request to determine whether or not we could provide folding partitions that would prevent anybody from going into the common rooms, the multipurpose rooms, during, say, a sporting event in the gymnasium. All the doors can be locked, and it would be a code violation to block off an exit to the exit door. So in our opinion, the right position would be for the city to lay down one of those triangular shapes that says do not go past this point. The doors are locked, so nobody will be able to get into any of the rooms, and it's from a safety standpoint, I'm sure that the building department and fire department would have issue if we put something across either one of those hallways.
I happen to agree, and I think, though, you know, it's a beautiful space right now, and to put those ugly metal, I mean, you're really going to ruin the whole look of the openness of that as well.
So you could put the temporary ones and then store them in a storage room.
That's right, like something that's freestanding, and all their doors lock anyway, so there's no way that if those rooms are not in use, no one could get there anyway. And if they happen to be in use in the same time, you couldn't block it off either, because then they couldn't get to the bathrooms, right?
That's right.
So it's not going to work either way, right?
Yes, that would be our position.
The only-
Benches, we've identified.
Real quick on the
Sorry.
door, on that
Yes.
hallway, if it did become an issue where we did have people going there, the other option is putting some nice decorative doors there that weren't ugly, that dropped out on fire,
Yes.
that were hooked into the system.
Yeah, yeah.
That's only if we had an issue. I don't see it being an issue doing
There isn't
the
much
way we're planning.
more to it if you block the 2 rooms. It's just the 2 hallways.
Yeah, I see that.
It's just that, yeah, it's not a lot, there's not a lot there.
The benches, we've indicated to place benches in the atrium. They're more of outdoor benches from a maintenance standpoint. That we believe the 4 would be for anybody waiting. There's obviously plenty of seating in the gymnasium, but we believe that you should have some benches located out in the atrium area. We've identified them in the plan next to the atrium. You can see there's 4 of them identified on the plan. Regarding the multipurpose room, and this would be the multipurpose room on the bottom right of your sheet, which is the more of the, I'd say, the play type of room. We've indicated on here through our discussions that there would be a television. There is a hookup for a television in that room as requested, a pool table, and I've identified that pool table is closest to the hallway. It's a rectangular shape. Ping pong table, which is closest to the bottom of the sheet, which has has the two lines in the middle of it. Again, we've provided the city with state contract specs for a pool table and for a ping pong table if they want to go that route. Otherwise, they can go through a separate vendor. Air hockey table was requested, but given the other uses that are being proposed in this room, all three of those would not be able to fit. So you could get two of the three, but you would not be able to get all three, given the size of the dimension. And you can see as we've laid out, there would be no room for a third and the chairs and tables that have been requested. So in this particular plan, air hockey table is not shown. There are computer stations shown here. There is one outlet closest to where the four seats are, just below the computer. So you could actually move those computers down and not have to change the power outlet. So.
Fran, if we didn't have the computer stations, could we get the air hockey table then?
You would have to lose the chairs as well, but yes, you could then get the air hockey table in there if you lost those kind of freestanding chairs and the computer stations. Yes, you could.
So I think, folks, that's a.
Okay.
I think we've had some questions back and forth about the computer stations. I mean, this isn't for you,
Yeah.
but just for public discussion. I mean, what do you think, Steph?
I mean, I think this is a rec center, so I think encouraging play and recreation a little bit over technology is the route I would go. If you could fit an air hockey table in there over the computers, I would go that route.
Okay. So we'll show.
Leo, you think so too?
Yeah.
John?
I'm fine with that.
We'll remove the computer stations and show in the next iteration an air hockey table in there so that you can have all three. There is a request for a gaming system that would be at the city, as well as high-speed streaming net. We did talk to Frank Borelli, who I guess is the technical person for the city, and he understands what all of it is wired, but he understands what it means on a monthly basis to pay and for the type of streaming. So I'll leave that up to the city and the technology people for
How
that.
does the rest of the council feel about this?
I have an objection to it because my feeling is it's a rec center to get kids off of Xbox, not to put them on it. So to give them another place to play, it is not, to me, not a great idea. I think these kids today get enough gaming and tech stuff.
I agree.
We're
And it is
pushing.
available in the library, right, Steph?
The library has a technology
We're
session.
pushing getting out with your friends and enjoying playing pool or basketball or something else in the facility.
I would, we'll take the direction at the city in terms of how you want it. We certainly are showing it just so it was one of the things that was put on the list. So as the city wants to, we'll do whatever the city wants in terms of that. And there will be a coat rack that will be also in that room that will go as a part of that.
Would we still be able to have, so we're looking at taking out the computer stations. Would we still be able to have the two tables and chairs, or how do folks feel about having the tables and chairs if kids come that want to play a game or do something?
You're going to need tables and chairs if there's, especially for the younger kids who can't play pool or ping pong, they're going to be playing hopefully
Board
board
game
games
or
and stuff like
something.
that.
So
They're
there
going
would
to
still
need
be
to-
room for
need to
two
do
of
that.
them?
Yeah,
Grant?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. We can arrange to put the air hockey, the pool table, and the ping pong table, the tables, and we'll have to remove some of the side chairs and the computer stations, but we'll be able to keep the tables and chairs that are in the middle that are shown.
Okay, so now we'll have three table games and the two tables, right?
Yes, yeah.
Thanks.
In terms of the senior center, we've shown a configuration for the furniture, as you can see, which is the top right portion of the drawing, placing small couches in a kind of U configuration around a table. But there is a proposed television. It's identified on the plan in that room, as well as the tables, chairs, and couches and other amenities. We provided the city with a couple of state contract where you could purchase them. They're generally a 2-week turnaround, and we've given some different options in terms of the type. There are for a larger array of different furniture, which are maybe a little bit more you have more options in terms of colors and types and styles than the state contract. The problem with that is that it's a 6 to 8 week turnaround on the order. So where with the state contract, it's maybe a smaller amount of furniture types you can choose from. The turnaround time is generally 2 weeks. With the larger variety, the turnaround time is 6 to 8 weeks. So that's really just depends on how the city wants to proceed in terms of moving forward. You don't necessarily have to have the whole thing furnished the first day. So that we've provided the city with some options to consider those two.
And I don't know if this is beyond your area of expertise, but both of these rooms don't appear to be that large to me. A 65-inch television, do you think that those rooms warrant a 65-inch television, or is it too big for those rooms?
No, I think it's the right size.
That's the right
I would
size.
not say that it's too large.
Okay.
I just happened to talk to somebody about that this morning.
Good, thank you.
Computer stations, we did place 2 computer stations per the request in this room. So if you can see, we've actually placed computer stations in all 3, not intending for them to be in all 3, just to show you where they would be in each one. So in this particular, we placed 2 computer stations located up against the exterior wall in there, and those would be. We didn't label it, but I would imagine we probably want a coat rack in this room as well.
Yes.
So
All right, so we'll scratch the computer stations that are in the big shared room. Just for everyone else, because I was in this meeting where this discussion was taking place, and the discussion was, if we were going to have computer stations for the kids and for the seniors, maybe it would make sense for it to be shared, because they're there at different times, and instead of putting it in the rooms, we could have put 4 of them in the big room, and it could have been shared, but I think we've agreed that we don't want to offer that.
Okay.
So we'll just, everybody, if you see those computer
Right.
stations, just scratch that out. That's not going to happen in a big room.
Okay.
And everybody agree that it's okay for the seniors to have 2?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. It's great. Good for me.
Okay, so that's good. The multi-purpose room, we've indicated, as I told you, there are 9 tables here. We were told this week that the city has 8-foot diameter tables. And so what we've shown here is a layout that shows the 9 8-foot tables. We had a previous layout that had 5-foot tables that achieved 12 different. The issue with this is that this is a divided room, and you can't get 6 in one side. If you have it open, you can get all 9. If they're closed, you can't get 6 in one side and 3 in the other. 6 don't fit. So this is only configuration works with these tables if the divider is open and the room is open. The divider is closed and the room is open.
Is the divider dead center?
The divider is dead center. Yeah.
And I think we have a lot of chairs. I mean, that somebody could go through, Ted, and ones that are really garbage throw out. But I bet we can, if we have tables, I bet we also have a lot of chairs that can be used too.
In the gymnasium, we did speak with the rec department. They said they have been in contact with, I guess, a vendor that the city uses regarding getting padded seats. So the padded seats, they asked for 50, I believe it was 54 padded seats. The padded seats would be for the players and for the coaches and for the people at the score table. So obviously all of the fans would be sitting in the bleachers, but you need padded seats so the 10 to 12 players on each team can sit, the coaches can sit, and then the score table has 3 or 4 chairs. So the city has indicated that they have a vendor they've already been speaking to about those. I'm assuming the city is going to or is in the process of moving forward with that. And then we had originally discussed 2 score tables, but it was brought up that potentially there might be a 3rd score table. The reason why you have 2 is that when you're using the small-sided court and the main divider is down in the gymnasium, you would have a scores table for one side of the small-sided court and a score table for the other side small court. There was a question as to whether or not they wanted a main score table that would be lit up in the middle, that would be for the large game. Now you could use the other score table, so you really only need 2. But if you want a nicer score table, then you might want the 3rd one, which would generally be bigger than the 2 ones used on the small-sided courts, and the possibility of it having lit up. I believe the high school has a similar score table like that was asked. So we kind of put that on the
Well, we could certainly start with the two, and then later on, if we realize or think we might want another one, right? What do you guys think? Yeah?
And the rec department, again, had indicated that they're working with the vendor that they've spoken with the city to figure out how to order those or move forward with those pending your decision or the city's decision. And the last piece was the office furniture, and we've just shown a table and some chairs here. There's probably a couple chairs that are missing that should have been shown at the front window in the vestibule area. But we've provided, again, a state contract to the city with the catalog that allows you to order furniture for office furniture that the city can move forward with purchasing. Those are as I understand it, that's the furniture that we've kind of laid out to this point.
Oh, quick question. The chairs will be stored in the gym storage area, correct? The 54 chairs?
So there's two sets of chairs. You'll have the padded chairs that would be used for the gymnasium, and I believe that they should and would be stored in the gymnasium storage area, which is a fairly large area. The tables that are in the that are located in the multi-purpose room, there is a storage area identified as chairs at 110,
Yep.
and there is a storage area identified for tables at 111. Those would be intended for the multi-purpose room storage, and then there is an extra storage room that you could put the freezer if you wanted a sit-down freezer. It's also my understanding that the rec department has some other things it needs to store there in terms of seasonal type of uniforms and jersey or T-shirts and whatnot that
Right.
they would use that storage room for.
Okay. I just want to, if there's plans to get a wrestling mat down there, to make sure there's ample storage area in the gym storage.
I've heard that. I've heard the word wrestling mat, but nobody has said yes or no. But I will tell you that the storage area, from my understanding and speaking with members of the rec department, is that what they'd like to do is in the storage area for the gymnasium storage area, that they would like to figure out how to do bins, like sectioned off bins for, I guess, the different sports, and then be able to lock those bins.
Okay.
But I will tell you that it is a fairly large room. So the biggest thing that we would have to make sure of is to understand the size of the rolling mat that the wrestling mat goes on, so that the storage bins weren't built in a way that wouldn't allow that mat to be moved.
Gotcha.
They're on a cart.
Yeah, it's on a cart.
Yeah, I think I think the newer ones are more concise, the way you could roll them up, but we'd have to look
But
at
there's
that.
no reason why that storage area could not fit all of those things and the wrestling mat.
Okay, thanks, Fran.
Leo, you have any other questions? I'm okay, I think I asked all mine, so.
No?
So as soon as we have, the city provides us with any additional feedback, I've got what you've told me tonight, we'll revise this and resubmit it to you, and if there's others, we'll make changes as necessary.
I do have one question. I really can't tell from the drawing exactly what we have outside as far as concrete area, an area where we might be able to put a bench or two outside. Should there be somebody waiting for a ride outside, there, because they'd have to go in the senior center, obviously, to sit or in the hallway, but I don't know if they'd be seen, but. I don't know if it's
There
something
is
we can
plenty of area that we can place benches on the exterior of this building.
All right.
Absolutely.
Good idea, John.
And just for the record, all of the stuff that you're provided us is on state contract, so we don't have to go out to bid. There's no delay in us to procure this.
We've provided the city with the catalog for state contract, yes. And there's, I believe there's some local vendors that would be state contractors for furniture. There's some local things like the refrigerator might not be a state contract type of purchase anyway.
Thank you, Fran. Any questions from the council before Fran steps down?
Nope.
Okay.
A lot. Thanks, Fran.
Next is a discussion and ordinance introduction for the Anderson Street amended redevelopment plan. Albert?
Mayor, Council, good evening. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at the redevelopment plan that's been put before you. I will do the best I can to try to provide you with some history. This is an amendment to a redevelopment plan that the city had put together several years ago. We had one developer who would approach the city and put together a concept plan and tried to secure the properties necessary to develop this plan in accordance with this plan, and was unable to do so. So in the, I want to say, year and a half that followed, we were approached by at least one other developer and amended that plan one more time to come up with something that was more palatable, that made more sense for a developer that was slightly larger. We had some initial feedback from the planning board, who looked at the concept at a concept review meeting, and in accordance with that feedback and with the help of Fran Reiner, DMR Architects, these amendments were put together, and these amendments essentially allow for more units. Originally, I think the original plan called for up to 160 units. This is allowing for up to 222 units. It essentially runs the length of, or a good part of the length of Anderson Street from Park just about to the railroad, but not including I guess that's the easternmost properties on closer to Park Street. But essentially where Rudy's Restaurant is, if anybody's familiar, the Chinese restaurant, the building next to it, and the city-owned parcel, which is the existing building department. We've been in advanced discussions now with at least one developer who we expect will be designated in the coming months, and eventually come back with site plan approval. If you have any specific plans about the redevelopment plan that's before you now, I will do the best with Fran's assistance to answer any questions you might have.
What about the pizza place?
Pizza place was not included. I think that just the geometry and it's sort of a triangular piece that runs, it's sort of jammed between the existing the lots and the railroad, and there was nothing really that added to this that would have allowed for the proposal to be any more efficient than currently envisioned.
From my notes, for the rest of the council benefit, I believe there's really just three changes that happened in this amendment. One is and all of it addresses the same, or pretty much the same, the reconfiguration, as you mentioned. One is the increase in units. Another is the increase in stories, right? It was originally for a 5-story, now it's going to a 6-story building, because that's allowable, as we've amended other plans to be so.
Correct.
And the other is something new that we're looking at for a property that's built right on a train station, because that's where this is. It's built right on a train station, where our requirement for parking before had been 1.25 per.
This is 1-to-1.
And we're changing it to 1. So we're looking at people that are wanting to live right on a train station, are folks that are going to be taking the train a lot. So we reduced the parking requirement there as well. So those are the three, and correct me if I'm wrong, I see Fran, those are the only three things that I
Substantively,
remembered.
Yes, you're right.
that are
The 6 stories, and Fran will correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that extends for the entire,
It just allows for it.
Allows for up to
The other
it.
plan only allowed for 5.
and I think the final iteration we'll see at the planning board, and but it's a project in an area that I am excited about, because as you know, and I'm sure people here know, Anderson Street has been languishing for some time and could really use a shot in the arm. And a lot of the same principles that are at work on Main Street are now being applied to Anderson Street. So I'll leave it at that, but I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor, and I appreciate all the work that Deputy Mayor, you have done on this, and Fran as well.
I think it's it's a very important project. Number one, it's right on the train station. Number two, it's in 2 anchor points between the Waypoint project on the corner of Main and Anderson and this project. So, things will fill in between with better retail, a little better type of stores maybe, and rebuild up that area. We'll get the beautiful park there, which is in great shape. So it should be a big plus for that. Now, it's 1.25 whether it's 1 or 2 bedroom. It's just
It's
per
one,
unit?
it's 1-to-1,
It's-
actually.
It'd be to 1. It'd go from 1.25 per unit to 1.
Yes.
Currently, it's 1.5 unless you're a studio, and then you're 1.
Right.
I'm sorry, currently it's 1.25 unless it's a studio apartment, and then it's a 1 parking required.
Okay.
So this would be 1 for all apartments regardless.
Mhm.
Again, it wouldn't be anything larger than a 2-bedroom. It would be studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom.
Right, and the thinking here is, and this is shown to be the case in similarly situated municipalities and similarly situated settings, where you're that close to the train station, you're just not attracting a whole lot of people who are car-owning residents, and that's the real, not to mention that, but there's also, you're within a stone's throw of, I think, 3 bus stops in that immediate
Right.
vicinity as well, so.
Right. And there still is parking accommodations on a 1-to-1 basis, so every apartment still has a parking spot, plus whatever the retail component is will have its required parking as well.
Absolutely.
So it does still allow for that, just doesn't allow for parking of more than 1 car per unit.
Correct. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Al.
Good.
Thank you, Alvin.
Next on the list is the discussion reference Stide Park Dog Park update. This evening at 4 o'clock, there was a site visit and basically tape that would visually allow residents and the public to go up and look at Stide Park, where the proposed location for the dog park has been. The square footage of this basically is 75 feet long and 50 on the return. So tonight's adoration was the long part. There is another ability where the park could be turned, which would have 50-foot exposure on Davis and 50 inside the parking lot. The entrance to the dog park, in either case, is proposed to be from the inside the park. So your entrance would be not from Davis side, but from the park side. So the basic concerns are meeting the needs and the goals of the community. I have been here now, it'll be 3 years, October 1st. Virtually since the day I started here, I've sat through meetings of people who genuinely were heartfelt and interested in having a dog park. And we progressed through these meetings for almost 2 years. And then we had discussions, and then we looked for funding. And we've tried, and there's been some stakeholders that came to these meetings and tried. We retained the services of Darmafowski Engineering. 2 of their engineers are here tonight who did the plans and could answer questions technically if that needs to be an issue. Then there was an issue somebody raised that we would be cutting down trees. Well, the trees that we have are basically, our full growth trees would remain. There are 2 trees that I identified in the park that have to come down because they're just unsafe. There's some swamp maple stuff that may be clipped and cleaned out of there. Obviously, I didn't want the public to go into there because we just sprayed for poison ivy, and we have a few unlikely victims of that already that wound up with poison ivy. We want to make sure everybody gets home safe. And it's basically the input of the public to hopefully offer their interest or concerns if a dog park was provided. And that's where we're here tonight.
Okay. You want any public comment, any comments from the council before we open to the public? Or we just open to the public? Okay, I need a motion open to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Anybody from the public who'd like to speak on this, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. Give your name to the clerk, please.
Good afternoon. Mike Allegretto, 215 Davis Avenue, Hackensack. I have a couple questions. So I'm trying to understand, taking the trees down that not too many people are happy about, that's a great area of the city. You really don't want to take trees down. If anything, you'd like to plant trees. My other concern is, is it budgeted correctly? You're going to go, if you're standing in the parking lot, it's roughly about 2'6" higher. It's topsoil. It's probably not stable. It's all got to be cleaned up. Probably a couple of feet has to be taken out. It's got to be stabilized. Is there a geotech involved with this? Are you guys going to test the soil? We're not removing any soil. We're just, it's more.
Why don't we, gentlemen, Mike, do all your
Okay,
comments
so
first, and then,
how-
otherwise
okay,
you're
how are
going
they
to lose
gonna
your time.
stabilize? I mean, they have to remove soil to stabilize, because if it's topsoil, you just can't build on top of it. So how are you gonna stabilize it? Is the soil gonna be tested? I mean, that, usually today, if you build anything, especially in rural areas, you need to test the soil. What approvals does the town need to remove those trees? Hackensack Tree Commission, Shade Commission, I don't know, I'm asking you guys, because this could be a bigger problem, and/or that's Green Acres. So, and then lastly, without taking any trees down, I'm all for the dog park. What about on Main Street, the front entrance, like when you pull in? The trees are almost 75 to 80 feet apart, and then like 110 in another direction. You can take what you've established, the 75 feet by 50 feet, and put it up there. It's flat, and it would probably be less expensive to build. I'm not sure what this is budgeted for. I just know if you do build it in the woods, it's going to definitely be more expensive.
When you're done, I'll have them answer your question.
Okay, and you do know the size of a wrestling mat, don't you?
Yes,
Okay.
I better.
Before he comes, should we let him answer?
Yeah, Mr. Summers, let the engineer answer Mr. Allegretta first, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Tom Barati from Darmafowski Engineering. So I think the first question was regarding movement of soil. We're going to have to strip topsoil. We're going to have to strip topsoil to make room to install the pea gravel. Okay. And I'm not sure what some of your other questions were. But
Testing the soil.
testing the soil, I mean, we're not disturbing any of the soil, just the topsoil, and that'll be removed and reused somewhere else for topsoil. And then we're building several inches of pea gravel. So we weren't anticipating have to test the soil because we're not going to be touching it.
I guess until you go in there and excavate, you're not gonna know how much the topsoil is. It could be a foot, it could be 2 feet.
Okay, yeah, so we'll consider testing the soil, but I don't think it really needs to
No, I'm
be.
not saying testing the soil, well, that's one issue. The first issue is how are you gonna stabilize it? You're saying you take 6 inches off of that and it's gonna be stabilized? You don't know that.
We're going to be putting pea gravel down, so I think it'll be fine. It's pedestrian and dog traffic only. Nobody's going to be driving over it. So, you know, structurally, I don't see there being a problem.
Okay, and your drawings are gonna show how to stabilize, how you plan on doing so?
Yeah.
A contractor bids it, and the town doesn't deal with change orders?
Yes.
Okay, gentlemen, I really don't want to go into the back and forth.
Could I ask a question
Sure.
based on his third comment? And I'm sorry, I wasn't at the park, and this isn't really something I've been that intimately involved in, but I do remember at our last discussion, I thought when we had it at one of our council meetings, that we did talk about having an alternate solution that sounded very familiar to what Mr. Allegretta proposed, where it was in another area where it could fit between large trees. Did we explore that option?
Yeah.
And is that not a viable option?
No. It was clear that whether the rectangle was
in the same area.
parallel or turned,
Okay.
it's not going to affect the old growth trees that are already planted there, and they won't have to be removed. So no matter what configuration, whether you have the 50-foot return on Davis and inside the park, or you make it the 75, the long leg, either one of them would be configured and would work in there. There's no issue that I'm aware of.
But I thought he made it sound like the second option
He's
was
talking,
better.
it's totally different at the corner of the park where you enter on Coles,
Okay.
on the corner of the
Summit.
park.
Okay, and that's not an
Summit
option?
Avenue. Something we haven't even looked at, so.
Wasn't even considered at this point.
Have you looked at that? I
So
mean,
the-
when you made your decision to pick this spot.
Well,
an engineering
it wasn't
company-
my decision. It was a decision based upon input from several different departments,
Okay.
Recreation, DPW.
Very close to the playground. It's right on top of the playground.
Right. It's closer to where the pavilion's going to be, the new bathrooms are going to be. It's arguably closer to many of the homes. The parking is better where we're proposing it. There's a whole parking area there.
Okay, so there are
we
reasons
wouldn't be
why this is a
parking-
better location?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, people driving there to use a dog park wouldn't be parking near residents, they'd be parking near the parking lot.
Which makes
So
sense.
I think it makes a lot more sense. And just to talk about the trees again, the idea is not to take away the mature trees. The idea is to preserve them the best that we can. What's going to be cleared are some of the small weed trees that are there, the poison ivy that's there. It's really an unusable area as it is right now. And then we would supplement as needed some evergreen trees,
Okay.
you know, to provide a barrier, if you will, visually to some of the homes.
Do we have an estimate
Davis.
of how many trees need to come down with this plan?
Again, it's the two that are dead
Okay.
already, and you can see the dead trees that are out there right now.
And neither one of those are inside the realm of the dog park. They're outside.
They're not inside the envelope.
They don't even count.
Okay, so
And
they
then
don't
the
count.
trees that'll be taken down are arguably not even trees. They're small, 6 inches or less. It's a lot of scrub underneath where we're gonna build the dog park.
But do we know how many of them we're talking about?
We'll have an exact count
Okay.
for you.
Roughly?
I don't have. an exact-
Handful or 10, you know? No, okay.
Again, many of them are 6 inches or less.
Okay.
They're-
All right, thank you.
And they're not even trees of any. Yeah, yes. 6 inches in diameter, the caliper. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm
I
not
should
sure if
have
I
wait.
answered all of your questions.
What about the approval to take trees down? What approval do you need? Straight acres.
Again, we're not taking down any mature trees that aren't already dead, and I don't think you need any approvals to take down the
I think
trees.
we can argue that you are taking down some mature trees. Eventually, they're gonna be as big as the other ones, right? So there's quite a few trees. Unless you guys did NASBO and check, there's quite a few trees that will be taken down.
Yeah, I don't think we're taking down any mature trees. That's the idea. We're gonna adjust it to ensure that we're not gonna take down any mature trees.
Guys, we're running out of format here. We're not supposed to go back and forth, all right? We wanted him to answer the questions that were asked, and we allowed a little bit of back and forth because he didn't know all the questions. But format is, if you have questions for the engineer, use your 3 minutes, then we'll bring the engineer up to answer your questions. All right? Thanks.
I think we covered that.
Yes, I think you did.
Thanks.
My name is Roberta Blands. I live at 187 Davis Avenue. I live right across the street from where you're proposing to put the dog park. I moved in that neighborhood because I felt like I was living in the woods, and it's beautiful, and the deer come there, and they are quiet, and they don't disturb the community at all. It's peaceful. And now to have a dog park directly across the street from my home, it actually makes me sad. And this gentleman mentioned that it's like a useless piece of property. Every place in Hackensack does not have to have a building put on it. We should be allowed to have trees and something that's beautiful and peaceful, and the birds could go there, the deer can go there. You watch the squirrels going around. It might not mean a lot to a lot of people, but for me, as a teacher in Hackensack, being a teacher, working, it's stressful, and coming home to an environment where it's quiet and peaceful, hearing children play basketball, that doesn't bother me at all. But having to have a dog park and those trees knocked down across the street from my house, honestly, it makes me feel like I'd like to leave. And I've been in Hackensack, raised my children in Hackensack, and they're in their 30s. It makes me feel like I want to leave. And I sincerely hope that you consider that every piece of property in Hackensack does not have to have an apartment building. It does not have to have a store. It does not have to have a dog park. We can have some trees, no matter how big or no matter how small they are. If you want to get rid of the poison ivy, fine, but please just leave that area for us. It's just one small area that we're asking for. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ben Bland. I also live at 187 Davis Avenue. In addition to things that you've heard all the different comments from different people about the trees and all that, my reason is that last year we had several burglaries on Davis Avenue. And having a dog park right across the street on this dead-end street is not a good location, in my opinion, for a dog park. It's just going to invite people that they could, if they're parking, they could stake out the area. So I think a dog park is good in a bigger park, like a larger park that, like say, like an Overpeck. You know, it's a large park, a section of it has a dog park. It doesn't affect the residents in the area. And so that's why I'm against the dog park at Stipe in that location. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Joe Summers, 805 Summit Ave. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Originally, when Sam showed me the diagram for the dog park, it was down where the old ice skating rink was. It was an ice skating rink. Philip Stive would have been proud of that. Then all of a sudden, it became a dumping ground for snow. So I paced it off, 75 yards for that cruddy old parking lot, 120 for the rest of the parking. Now in the winter, if they had no other place for snow, I don't know where they put it when we had an ice skating rink for 50 years, but they could put it along that parking area closer to Summit Ave. That's your snow removal. The asphalt needs to come up from that cruddy old parking lot. It's already coming up anyway. There's a puddle there before Joe and Glima cleaned it up, breeding mosquitoes. There is an outlet right to Coles Brook. And as you saw in the letter from Mary Walsh on the Shade Tree Committee, that violates a New Jersey statute. So we need to reclaim that area. We want an encore from you, John, because you took out a parking lot, put in Paradise in another park. We'd like you to do the same in Stye Park. So the asphalt can come out. When we did the Fairmount Creative Playground, just the asphalt off the top. There's bedrock under it, topsoil over it, clean fill. The Shade Tree Committee, Bernadette and others will help with planting trees. We could use it as a study in ecology of ecological succession for the high school students. I've been an educator for about half a century. New York State and then here, teaching college bio also. So this idea of cutting down trees in a climax forest, a mature hardwood forest, is just ecologically wrong. It's a sin. So we'd ask that you not do that. If it was originally what Sam showed me, it would seem like a good idea. I would be okay with that, but not where it is, not where they're proposing now. It doesn't make sense. My daughter's a New York City fireman, and he used to say, use your head. Use your head, Joe. So let's all do that. Look at use the scientific method, be honest, be accurate, be specific, do your research, and you get good answers. Okay? That's about it. I've talked before, and thank you so much for the meeting today. Thanks for coming down there. That's important. It is important that our elected officials listen to their citizens. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we built it up. It's a floodplain.
Hi, Bernadette Bracken, Poplar Avenue. I'm the chairwoman of the Shade Tree Committee. So when I take a look at the code that establishes the Shade Tree Committee, one of our duties is to study and advise the city council as to the necessity of shade tree replacement on public property and as to the need for programs, ordinances, or other forms of planning and control for the protection and preservation of shade trees within the city. And I speak for the rest of the Shade Tree Committee when I say that we're pretty disappointed that we haven't been formally included in any of these plans since clearing of trees is involved. And the interesting thing about trees is that even though they're only 6 inches wide now, they will continue to grow. And I said this in the last open comment about this park and the clearing of the trees, that forest areas are the only places within the city that trees can grow unobstructed by power lines and sidewalks, and we really think it would be a shame to clear them out. And we would love to be included on the planning of this in a more formal way than having members of us come up during a public comment, since we are all volunteering our time to be a part of this committee and aren't having any formal interaction with the council regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernadette, I want to take the second to say I think you're right. We should have included you. It's definitely a mistake on our part. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Janet Wicca. I live at 178 Spring Valley Avenue in Hackensack, and I've lived in Hackensack for 35 years. And from the first impression when I moved to Hackensack, I was amazed at the trees. And I always loved Stive Park, and I felt that the fact that it had that wooded area that kept the water from flooding the creek and keeping our air clean and all that. I've always respected the fact that those trees were there. On visiting the site today, I did notice too, just one thing that no one's mentioned, I'd say that it's probably 6 feet or more from the level of where that dog park is going to be to where the parking lot is, maybe 8 feet elevation. So in terms of runoff, I feel that that removing those trees and you'd have to have a path to get to the dog park. That would be a steep incline and would also promote the runoff. Now, the trees absorb thousands of gallons of water every time it rains, and I have a friend, and I wish I knew her address. She lives a block or more off of the creek in the Fairmount section, and she said with all the rain they've had in the last year, the first time ever in their existence in Hackensack, they're getting water in their basement. So I really feel the removal of those trees are going to have a cascading effect in the amount of water that is going to run down to the creek, which is then going to affect all the homes that are south of that area. So I totally object to removal of trees to put in a dog park. I think that the city has a lot more open area, and if you ever visited Overpeck or Maywood or Van Soen Park and you go to where the dog park is, it's also very far away from residential areas, and it's set aside. It's not going to be sitting right next to the residents that live along that street. So I feel very strongly that putting it in destroying trees in Hackensack is to put in a dog park seems ridiculous. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Hey, how are you, sir?
Dr. Carrion, 195 Davis Avenue. I'm directly across from the park. And initially, I thought it was a great idea, the way it was presented. However, thinking about what we have there in front of our home, it's a beautiful grass, trees, and the ecological impact of putting a dog park there, I think is going to be substantial. We have all kinds of birds there, hawks, we have deer, we have everything. And doing something like this, not that I disagree with having a dog park in Hackensack, I'm just disagreeing with the location. It's not necessary. The effect is going to be great, and it's not something that has to be done. It is beautiful for us, like my neighbor said earlier, to come outside and see a really, really unique part of Hackensack there. And the dog park would change everything, and I mean everything. So on top of all the other issues that are being presented, parking, safety, bringing a lot of people to the area, the ecological impact, I think, is the biggest one, and it's the one that really is unnecessary. So I am not for the dog park at that location. Maybe we can put our heads together and find a better location somewhere in Hackensack. And that's where I'm at, okay? Thank you for your time, thank you for having this meeting, and have a good night.
Thank you, Doug.
Good evening, Kathleen Sarro. I love dogs. I love kids. I like people. Dog run is a good thing to have, but not in this neighborhood. Like the people said before me, they buy their houses because they buy a neighborhood. You buy a house because you want to be secluded, you want to have trees, you want to be calm, and this thing in Hackensack that we have to put something on every piece of land. What happened to open space? The people voted for open space when we had the election, and we don't have open space, and we have to occupy every piece of land, and we're getting really crazy with this development. I mean, it's off the wall. So if you buy a house and you expect to see the birds and the bees and the trees and everything else, do the dog park someplace else. We can't limit it to just people in Hackensack. So you can say maybe 10 people are going to bring their dog. Then you're doing thousands of apartments. So now maybe these 1,000 apartments that don't have a place for their dog, they're all going to convert up to Javis Street Avenue, whatever it is, and use the dog run. So now you're going to make it like Times Square. So you can't limit the people who are going to use it. If I could say it's just for the neighborhood, just for a certain amount of people, yes. But you're bringing thousands of apartment dwellers that don't have a place for their dog, and then they're going to bring them up there to use the dog run. And this has happened to us. This has happened on State Street, where they made that beautiful Atlantic Street Park, and what do we have? Dogs going to the bathroom all over. Because the owner next door said, oh, bring your dog to the park. So we have the kids sitting watching a movie, and the dog's going to the bathroom on the grass. So you can't limit the area to who's going to use it, and this is what the problem is. If we could say just the neighborhood, X amount of dogs, be very comfortable with it. This is no place to put this. I thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Deep Huntaseka, 210 Willow Avenue. I want a dog park. I think it's a great idea. Remove one tree and I'm out. People don't realize how important those trees are. I live on Willow Avenue behind the Blands. The traffic, the screeching from Route 4 gets a little muffled with those trees. So it is a help, even though they're scrawny, they're not pretty, they don't have a name. We need the trees. If they say they're taking 10 down, you know it's gonna be 20. I don't want any trees removed. I just want you to know where I'm coming from.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, Gary Tizano.
Sir.
Chairman, Environmental Commission, and member of the Planning Board, but more important, I'm a resident of Hackensack for 65 years. I went today, and I was anxious to go, to be invited as a resident at Stuyve Park. I thought that the city did a great job, Mr. Ehrenberg, on setting it up, bringing the bleachers there, having the microphone there, just anticipating hopefully a larger crowd, which is great to have, that people have the input. My only concern is two items, and that is the noise that the dog park will generate on the weekends, especially in the summertime. I know where I live on Fairmount Avenue, between 5 and 7 a.m. in the morning, I have a lot of people walk their dogs around my property. Granted, there's not a lot of barking because it's usually one dog at a time. But when you put 2 or 3 dogs together in an area, there's going to be some barking. So I sympathize with the neighbors in that area that they're going to have to deal with that in the summertime. Secondly, I'm a tree hugger. That's why I'm on the Environmental Commission. So I cannot see why we would have to take down trees. I would propose, if we had to have the dog park there, is to move it into that parking area, that parking lot, take part of the lot out, make it a pervious surface, keep the trees as a buffer for the people that live on Davis, and compromise that way. How big does the dog park have to be? Now, I know the dog park up in Ridgewood, they had it in the back of the duck pond area, and they had to move it because the houses were back there, and the people had it up to here. with having that noise on the weekend. So what did they do? They moved it out to Ridgewood Avenue. It's a beautiful dog park. Large dog park, small dog park, water, pavers, beautiful aluminum black fence. But they also took down about 35 old-growth trees to build the parking lot for that dog park. And people come in from all over, and they have to come with their cars. John, you made a comment about, you don't really think people should have to come there with their dogs in a car. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen for the people in the neighborhood because they're going to have the luxury of walking their dogs there. But once it gets out, they're going to be coming in from all over with their animals, okay? So in that respect, I went to Johnson Park because, I've been involved with the community garden down there. And I went over to the corner of Anderson Street and River Road, and I marked out the area that used to be the ice skating rink. Would you please pass these out, Ted? And I walked off, old-fashioned way, an area in the green space that has no trees to be taken down. And for everybody's record, it's 288 feet approximately long by 105 feet wide. And it's right at the corner of River Road, River Street, and Anderson Street to the south of the Sears parking lot. People park there anyway. People park in the back by the soccer field, so there's plenty of parking. This is an ideal spot. It doesn't impact anybody's homes. It's got a huge buffer because Sears is on one side, the car wash is on the other. Nobody lives close by. It's a super large area. You don't even have to use that much space as for what you call for your proposed dog parks for Davis. I say experiment, build one here, and see if they will come. And then, as the comment was today up inside, if you have ideas to build small ones around the town, so be it. But I really can sympathize with the people that live on that street because that noise is going to be astronomical when it comes on the weekend. That's all I have to say on that matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public want to speak about the dog park and the dog park only? Okay, motion to close to the public.
Offer. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Going to move on to, you guys want to have any discussion on this now, or you want to wait? Or save it for, we can't do it in back room.
I thank everyone for coming, and, it's our job to listen, and I think, we heard you loud and clear. Give us the opportunity, we're not making any decisions tonight, give us the opportunity to look into some of the things that you proposed. That's what, again, I'm not as actively involved as some of the other council members are, so I feel like I have to step up and learn a little bit more before I can make an educated decision. But we ask that you give us that opportunity, and we heard you, so.
I will say this, I'm glad you people are here. This is what government should be. And a long time ago, 2 to 3 years ago, a room similar to this was filled with people who wanted a dog park. Our job is to listen to the people. So we did listen to the people, and we looked and spent over 2 years looking into dog park, and this one at Stide Park, and we investigated and we moved forward with it. And now we have a different group of people who oppose the dog park there. So our job as elected officials are to listen to the people. There are times, as I said today, when we had a room full of people in here against the Atlantic Street Park. They wanted to keep an old decrepit parking lot there. They thought they owned it. It was a city-owned parking lot. And it was a little different situation, but we moved ahead with our plans on that one, and it turned out good. That doesn't have any reflection on our decision here. It's a little different situation because it's residential versus a commercial situation. But we appreciate you coming here. This is what government should be like. We were more than happy. We've gone out of our way to have several meetings, and plus the meeting we had today, to have wasn't a public forum because it really wasn't a public meeting, but to have people come and express their views, and unfortunately we couldn't walk the site, but it was a good thing that happened. It was a good thing that you guys came here tonight. So our job is to listen and make our decisions based on input. So with that, that's how we will move forward. Anyone else from the council?
Just thank you for coming out. As the mayor said, this is a team effort. We're having these meetings, we're meeting at the park so that everyone can have input. So, thank you again for coming out, and we appreciate the input. It is a team effort, and we have to work together and come up with a solution that hopefully makes everybody happy. Thank you.
Leo?
Well, I was there at 4 o'clock, and we just looking into what are we gonna do. No decision being made, so we're gonna continue looking to them. We'll make a decision, but we let everybody know what are we gonna do before we're gonna make a decision. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I do want to correct one thing, because a comment was made about all the open space having new buildings put on it. That is, the only open space where there was any new building put on it was at the M&M building, and that was for the better good of the community. All these redevelopments, these apartments, most of them are on blighted property of existing buildings already. We're not taking down green space to put these apartments up. We're taking down blighted property we're collecting no revenue for you as taxpayers and putting up through pilot programs that will bring in revenue for you to help us cut taxes for you. So there's a little bit difference there. And with that, let's go on to number 4.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Guys, we're just going to move on to regular business. So all the people who are here for the dog park, we'll take a 2-minute recess if you want to leave, and we'll do it like that, all right?
Next is number 4, resolution discussion, National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This is a supporting resolution that express condolence and support of victims of gun violence and their families, express support of law enforcement officers and other first responders for the protection of communities and those who live but are at greater risk due to the proliferation of illegal firearms, and etc. So this is just a supporting document to show that obviously the city of Hackensack supports law enforcement in their efforts to rid gun violence. Number 5, discussion of the Hackensack Riverwalk, final decision of walkway and exterior furnishings. I've spoken to Fran, I've spoken to Albert. We do have a little difference of opinion, concrete versus asphalt. Personally, a good percentage of all of the Riverwalk is already currently concrete. Fran is of the belief that we should maintain the standards for the streetscape for benches and the lake receptacles and all of that, but he also supports the concrete notion. I personally, if I get a vote, and I don't, I would support concrete also for the reason that once the developers put in these new products, the city is now in this for the long-term maintenance of it. So if we're setting the standards and we're going to wind up ultimately maintaining the Riverwalk, I personally think that we probably should, for the long haul, stick with concrete, but it's mayor and council's decision. Next, number 6 is the PSE&G worry-free vans overnight parking. There are vans that PSE&G has for staff that come out that reinforce issues that are on-call employees. There's some concerns of some of the council members that these vans are parked throughout the city. The people that have these vans are the only ones that are on call to respond to PSE&G's emergencies, whether we have light stanchions down or there's a power outage and that. So we have all employees drive these vehicles listed below are on either shift or on call. These folks are expected to be able to respond to emergencies in a timely fashion, and these vehicles are usually parked at their residence because parking is always an issue in the city of Hackensack. So all this is really going to do is have a discussion so the mayor and council understand the need for this, and also the residents who call to complain and want to know, why is this van parked here? Why is it overnight? Why isn't it parked someplace else? It's basically their livelihood. Number 7 is a discussion of Hackensack Open Space and Recreation Grant Resolution. Where from the local planning services, whereas the city of Hackensack is in need of professional planning services to prepare for a recreational plan element for the entire city. City of Hackensack is pursuing grant funding and the assistance from the state to basically have a planner come in and, just as this discussion has brought up, an overall view of the resources that the city has to make sure that we're on track to provide the best service and the best application and use of the property that the city has in its inventory. Regrettably, the city of Hackensack does not have a lot of open space, and that space is well guarded and garnered, and we certainly would love to add to the inventory. The problem is that most of the property here, as the mayor pointed out, buildings that are removed or reestablished, we're not, plowing down green space to build buildings here. And unfortunately, because of conditions, a lot of these sites were brownfield issues that needed to be cleaned up anyway. And without a conversion and a redevelopment, these sites, the land and the drinking water and everything that are exposed would remain a problem. So that is one of the issues that the redevelopment will address in the long term. Number 8 is supporting Never Forget the Heroes resolution. This is a resolution to remember those from 911 victims and the compensation for those that obviously were either killed on that day, but more than that, casualties are the people that went in there to clean up that then have been exposed to toxins and issues that have caused them to then wind up, unfortunately, with cancer and other diseases because of the content and the exposure that they had when they attempted to either rescue people or clean up the site. So this is a supporting document for that. Next is the discussion of Summit Ave no parking proposal. The city has had some issues with trying to alleviate traffic on Summit. This was forwarded to our traffic bureau. Even though the traffic bureau would love to say yes, there's some components here that needs to be addressed. To make a full-blown study, we would need to do a traffic study, involve the county involvement and approval, address the complaints from the medical offices, and get community input from the taxpayers. Because of all of these changes, it's basically drawing into a funnel, and all of that traffic backs up at that intersection. I clearly understand the expansion and the ability to free flow to move traffic as prudently as we can to the city, but regrettably, lane expansion and the way that that's currently configured may bottleneck unless we take this. So if the mayor and council are interested in that, we will pursue all of these and get you a final report, because obviously for this change to occur, in my opinion, we need a very well-educated, informed, offer here before we make this change. This is not one of those that I would quickly knee-jerk reaction to this, just to say that we're going to try this, because I think there's a lot of pros, and I think there's probably some cons that need to be at least addressed or made people aware of. And last, are you prepared for the e-cigarette?
Yeah, I just
And
wanted
last
to...
is, I'm sorry, then the last is number 10, is Mr. Kleinman has a discussion item for e-cigarette.
Yeah, I just wanted to revisit this issue that was talked about at a prior council meeting. We are looking to adopt an ordinance adding e-cigarettes to our existing tobacco ordinance regarding, not being allowed to sell unless you're 21 years old, ensuring that there's proper signage, essentially putting e-cigarettes and treating them as regular cigarettes, as the state of New Jersey does. However, the state of New Jersey does not regulate e-cigarette vendors, and that has led to a situation where quite a number of municipalities, including certainly Westwood and Ridgewood in Bergen County, have adopted such ordinances where in order to sell e-cigarettes within the community, you would have to have a license to do so. That's issued by the city, in this case, the health department. We don't have a board of health. You act as the board of health here, is my understanding. So it would be issued through the health officer. And essentially, it would allow you to keep track of who is selling these things so that you could go and enforce it. You could go make sure that the proper signage is up and so on and so forth. Where right now, literally any vendor can sell e-cigarettes in the community and there's no restriction on it. Every place could do that. My understanding is the council was interested in doing so, and I have revised the ordinance, assuming that's what the council wants to do for introduction at the next council meeting. One question that does come up and probably should be discussed before it's formally introduced is the type of fee that would be imposed for a vendor who wants to sell e-cigarettes. I've surveyed this, and the average is approximately $1,200 a year. The max is $1,500 a year in any of the towns that have adopted it. It's, I think, a minimum of $200 per year. To me, the easiest number is either $600 or $1,200 because it's divisible by 12, and the license would normally run from January 1st to December 31st. So if someone wanted it for 2019, the intention would be to make it effective in August, and then they would have a 5-month license and then have to reapply. So I would suggest to you one of those two numbers would be the easiest for management purposes, assuming you wanted to charge a fee at all for the license, which everybody does. And they said the minimum is $200 because that money should be used for enforcement. For the health officer to go and make sure that people have the correct licenses if they're selling these things. And are following all the rules and regulations that apply. So just wanted to throw that out to the council to make sure that this is something you still wish to do. Again, it is approximately 20 municipalities as of the end of 2018 had adopted this. It is possible the state may jump in and like regular cigarettes, increase enforcement, in which case then the state law would supersede ours. But at least for the moment, it doesn't appear that that's where they're headed. I don't know if the council, again, has opinion on the licensing fee or not, whether that's any direction for me as to what to put in the ordinance for next time. Okay, fair enough.
I'm done.
Any motion to open to public, please? Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Please give your, anybody who wants to come to speak, please step up to the podium.
Gary Terzano, Fairmount Avenue, Hackensack. I want to speak on the Riverwalk type of materials that we could possibly use. I ask everybody on council and even in the audience and my friend Al Dibb to look online at Edgewater, Hoboken, Jersey City, preferably Liberty State Park, and look at their riverfront walks. And you will see that the majority of those walks are made with beautiful pavers. Some of these walks have been there at least 20 years already. They were built the right way, and that's why they're still in good shape. Edgewater, if you look at Edgewater, you're going to see some damage from Superstorm Sandy, but they weren't put in properly. And it's obvious when you look at it, there's nothing, no curbing to hold it in. But going back, and as a planning board member, and I sit with two deputy mayor and mayor on that planning board, when the developer came from the Record property, they asked about what we could possibly put in for the Riverwalk. And they basically left it up to us. And granted, we really didn't have a true plan on the type of materials to be used. So they asked for a 16-foot wide Riverwalk along the river there, in that huge so-called mini city that's going to be built there, a beautiful looking complex. The asphalt, Councilman Battaglia, doesn't work. It expands, it bubbles, and then it cracks, just like it does in the streets. So it's a cheap way to go, but it's an impervious surface, doesn't really add a lot to it. The county park in Saddlebrook, the pathway, you see it all along on the 6 miles. It just raises and cracks and whatnot. I did a little survey. I went down behind the Costco, which was built a long time ago. Concrete held up fairly well, but it's not really that attractive. All these years later, there are better ideas out there. And pavers are expensive, but if the developer's going to pay for them, as Mr. Ehrenberg claimed in his last, when I watched the video from the last Cal, if we have to maintain it, it's easy to maintain. Any type of material to come up, you take the pavers up, you prep underneath, and you put it back down, provided you have the right base and it's done the proper way, following the plan. It's beautiful. You can even incorporate some concrete with pavers, all right? You'll see that as well. But like I said, I offer you to please look it up online and take a look at some of that. But why not go for the best if they're paying for it? Because the developers, they've got pretty much what they've wanted when they've become before our boards. You know, they've done real well in all their requests for their projects. Now it's time for us to make it even better, to look better, beautify it. And that's my opinion on that. The Deputy Mayor, you made a comment in the video about, yeah, Main Street had the pavers, and they came up. That was a long time ago. They weren't good, and we weren't educated enough. And when they came up, what went back down? Asphalt patch. And that's why it looks like that down there now, even before we started worrying about anything on, you know, the substructure in Main Street. Okay? So I ask you to please table it, table a vote on this. I spoke to Fran for a few minutes before we started this meeting. I really haven't spoken to Al on it, but I really think when you start to look at the pavers, you're going to like it. Van Zorn Park has a lake, okay? The stream runs in and out. There's been pavers there about 25 years. They still hold pretty well. So it's a good way to go. They're concrete, they're pervious, they're great, and I think we deserve that in Hackensack. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Gail Wells, 160 Overlook Avenue. The last time I was here, which was about a month ago, I had asked for the make and model number of the metal roll-up gates at 170 Prospect for their rear doors. Were you able to get that?
I'm going to ask the city manager. I'm sorry, but I neglected to follow up on that. I'm sorry, I apologize. Ted, did we ever obtain
I
that
do not
information?
have that information at this time, but I will look at it.
I'm sorry.
Did you
I
try?
apologize.
I have not.
Okay. What are the city's plans to enforce the nuisance code?
From the last time that Dean and the health department was down there, they met the criteria of the noise. So what?
Well, there's a
violation-
noise and then there's a nuisance. So I'm asking you specifically about the nuisance.
Okay. I don't have the nuisance statute in front of me, but most nuisance statute says it creates a hazard or nuisance, that's not the right word, that legitimately causes people inconvenience or dismay.
Yeah.
Those garage doors are there for their practical application to keep that apartment complex that they decided safe by putting doors on or gates on it so they didn't have people walking through the complex. It's not an illegal purpose that they have those doors there. And as we've been through this, the people that complain about that, the list is short.
And I would just add, I mean, the nuisance ordinance, you know, if a complaint is received, you know, the law enforcement or the constable, I mean, they would have to make the judgment that it would be something that could be prosecutable and upheld in court. Obviously, we have a noise code that, you know, if it's noisy beyond permissible limits, that's one issue. But, you know, they do have to use some discretion in determining whether it reaches a relatively high standard of disruption in order to have a viable complaint to bring somebody into court. I have no idea whether this meets the standard or not. I'm just saying
Gotcha.
it's
Okay.
not simply
as far as
something
noise
simple.
goes, okay, city deputy mayor gave this out at the last condo co-op board meeting. 6 people in the first quarter of this year complained about the noise from the airplanes, and a lot more people know about the noise from the airplanes than know about these metal gates. So, you know, don't give me the numbers thing, okay? When the constable has been in my apartment 3 times, they were in violation. This fourth time, this last time, they were 1 to 2 decibels below or within the margin of error. So it's not like it's at 40 decibels and it's not being heard, okay? It's at 52 decibels, okay? And the problem is you can't enforce it, but the real problem is you don't even know if they're rated for the use intended because you don't have the make and model number. It is the most insane thing I have ever heard in my life. How could you grant a permit for a building with over 270 apartments, over 600 parking spaces, and not know if the gates are rated for the use that it's intended?
The city does not determine what product that people put in their buildings. If they meet the safety code, they meet. If the noise exceeds that, then we can take action. But it's clearly not my job or the city's job to go in there and do the research prior to the purchase of people's garage door openers or safety. How much oversight do you think the city's going to become involved in?
When you have a history of 3 violations, and then all of a sudden they get a permit issued, and it doesn't raise an eyebrow, gee, maybe I should know. I mean, ask Allison. I asked her 4 times. It seems like it's the biggest secret. I don't know, is this funny? Because are you smiling?
No.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know, is this, I mean, I just don't. Come to my apartment, sit there, Sunday morning, 7:30 a.m., 3 cars back to back to back. My windows are closed. Am I supposed to live in an encapsulated apartment? I can't open my windows? Why don't you just first get the make and model number, make sure that these gates are rated for the use they're intended. And then, you know what, maybe I'll have to take my argument elsewhere. But as my attorney told me, when I put my hand in my pocket on his instructions, he said, your pockets are not deep enough. You can't go after the city. So you know what, I'm asking for your help. I've been asking for your help since you started. And it has not stopped. This weekend, 3-day weekend, he's gonna have those gates going all weekend. Do you have any idea the activity that goes on there?
Ms. Wells, you bring up the argument about the noise. The deputy mayor brings the same comment about us changing the route of airplanes and the traffic.
You know what, Ted? There's some things that are a little bit easier to manage.
Could you just let me finish my statement? My point of saying that is, listen, it's clear to me, and it's clear to this council, that you're very upset about the noise that occurs from that. The city obviously knows that they didn't change those gates to annoy you, or this is a personal attack, and this offends your sensibility and your space as you live in that apartment. I understand that. But the city also has a responsibility. How far do I lean over the fence and tell them, hey, I'm the city manager, I'm gonna come over and inspect your doors because I think you bought the wrong brand. Where's my enforcement to do that?
In a recent, and I'll let you go because I know I'm here more than 3 minutes. In a recent conversation I had with somebody on the property, there was a curtain door that they could have put up. They chose the cheaper, the less effective, because they didn't care, because they think nobody cares.
Okay.
I'll let the other people go. I'll be back.
I will make you this one promise. I will get the make and model of those doors.
By Friday?
Listen, I cannot promise by Friday because I have a full plate of things to do. But I will get it before we have another council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please. Okay, could I just ask a question before the next person comes up? Do we record stuff like that on permits? No. I mean, I don't know. Are we required to do that?
No, there's no issue.
Unless there's an issue.
I just thought if it was recorded on the permit, it would be a simple thing to look up, but obviously it's not required. I'm sorry.
Yes. 139 Ricardo Place, Hackensack. I'm here to represent my friend and his interests as a disabled person and the problems he's having living in his own home. The first, I'd like to mention that I see a lot of signs in this city saying it's a non-stigma community. I beg to differ with that point. If someone is disabled and they have to live in a home where they have limited, but they can't drive because they suffer epilepsy for their entire life, and there's no reason why they can't have freedom to go where they want to go because other people park in front of their entrance door to their home, a private home, mind you, not an apartment building, where they can't go to and from where they want to. If an emergency vehicle comes, if food service delivery vehicle comes, be it as it may, visitors, whatever, medical people, county officials, because my friend Terrence Lynch lives that way, and he needs help from you people in the city council. He needs you to see the problem that we have people parking. This is probably what they call cross-administrative issue here. From the high school on Beach Street, parking on Ricardo Place.
Do you have an address, sir?
In 139 Ricardo Place, Hackensack. And this problem is parking. The problem has gone from bad to worse. It seems that a lot of kids park over there. I don't know if they're juniors, seniors, what their grade is, but they leave their cars there early in the morning, all through the day. And my friend gets visitors from visiting nurses, sometimes from county officials to check on his health. And he, we have one tenant there that visits. He has a vehicle, and we just can't park there. And it's take it to another point there. It's threatening him as a person if he wants to go someplace. And also, there's another issue that's connected with disabilities here, is recycling rules. My friend can't drive because of epilepsy, and he's been that way through his whole life. There are recycling rules in your city that says people who don't have, like, certain electronic goods must take it to Green Street to deposit in order to get a stamp to have it taken. He can't do that. He can't drive a vehicle legally in the state of New Jersey because of the medications he takes. Is there a way to resolve this problem?
Yes, sir. Take my card. He could speak on the phone, correct? Have him call me, and we'll have a discussion, and I'll address these issues.
Mr. Ehrenberger, thank you so much for your help.
No problem, sir.
Okay. That's all really, and thank you for your attentions.
Thank you. Next, please.
Richard Salk in Hackensack. It's okay if I'm not confrontational. You have an ordinance on second reading on the compensation for off-duty police officers. I don't want to speak against the ordinance. I'm not against the ordinance, but actually it's really more directed at the city attorney. You should take a look at section 148 of the code, because there seems to be overlap in terms of enforcement and planning.
Which section, sir?
148, excavations, because it has, when you're going to be doing something in traffic, which in your last discussion, this is largely when you're using the off-duty cops and the equipment. In this ordinance, it's the director, which we don't have. In that ordinance, it's the chief, which we don't have. But there's language in there. I'll give you the exact section. 148 H. Well, section H.
148 is a rather large ordinance. It's
I know. What section H?
Section H. There's
Yeah.
it goes from 148.1 to 148.71. So do you have
I'm sorry, 148.34.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Didn't intentionally try to mislead you. Anyway, it's just, the language in there says, the city shall be compensated for its costs. And someone wanted to be cute, you have set a flat rate, they're gonna say, I don't agree with that. What was your actual cost? I just think you need to tweak this one to match it up.
148H, I appreciate that very
Okay.
much. I will check it out. I have the code open now, so I'll take
That's
a
all I
look.
have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Regina DePasqua. A couple of things. I would like to know what the budget is for furnishing the M&M building. I'm glad you're listening to people about what you're doing in their neighborhood. I wish you had about the M&M building. The Riverwalk. Concrete is durable. You dress it up with plants. You know, it needs to be durable. It doesn't have to be pretty. There are other ways to make it pretty. PSE&G. Somebody sold you a bill of goods about what PSE&G worry-free is. You don't have PSE&G out by you, do you? You have Jersey Central Power? PSE&G, you schedule an appliance repair service. Schedule, not. It's residential. They fix appliances. It's nothing on the streets. It's all residential. and mostly by appointment. Worry-free. You can look it up on PSE&G's website. It's not fixing streetlights and things like that. And the problem is, they're parked illegally where they're parked. I was talking to a gentleman that lives over there, and parking is limited. And plus, we have no commercial vehicles. We have that ordinance, no commercial vehicles, and they're parked on the street. They could park over in, like Suez parks in their yard. They can park in a yard, and 5 minutes from their home. They're not responding to emergencies like on the street. They are a residential program that people pay for to repair their appliances, their hot water heater, whatever. It's not anything that you said it was, okay? So I am giving you the benefit of the doubt that you don't have PSE&G, that you don't use a worry-free.
I do not.
You do have it?
I do not.
You do not. Okay, so that's why I figured you didn't know what it was. And most of us around here do, and, it does residential, and that's it. And usually by appointment. And they may come in 3 days, 4 days. They don't always come same day, very rarely. Yeah, Summit, that would be a nightmare to make that change from Beach to Thompson. It would be a nightmare. But there are other ways to go around, like when Summit was closed yesterday. I went down to First Street and came up to there are other ways to go. If people would go other ways, there's very little traffic on First Street, on the parallel streets, but everybody chooses to go on Summit. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will check that fact about that. That's what was that's what was reported to me. I got it.
Next, please. Sir?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to come tonight. My name is Corinne Whitmire. I live at 190 Berry Street, unit number 8. And today I'm going out. So I wanted to thank everyone here for allowing me to speak last time that I was here, and I've had no bad rain on the street. But I had a place that I was approved for another apartment, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. I could go into detail, but I don't want to keep you here too long. I could say though that the person that made the accusation about me being, how did she put it? Aggressive behavior. Yeah, I was so frustrated with the dates because it was the 23rd, the 22nd, the 27th, and I believe the 29th or the 28th, and then the first when I was supposed to move out. And so today I went to see a lawyer today. His name is Mr. Walsh. I believe that's spelled W-E-L-S-H. And he said he's looking into the matter. And I just want to thank everyone so very much. I mean, I go to church every Sunday. I don't want to really bring up the word, but I was going to bring my scriptures here, and I was going to thank the mayor, of course, because I believe that he's doing a great job. I mean, I don't have a whole bunch of knowledge, and there's a lot of things that I don't want to know. I was reading this one book, if I can just kind of get off the subject, and it sort of talks about cultures and like where we came from and like what we believed in before we were like, and I need to say especially African Americans forced into, worshiping Christ, those that did. And so I just sum it up like this, that in the beginning of the book of Cavendish, he states something of the effect of how people in politics, they like to build, and it's political science, and I kind of identify with that a little bit. So I just like to thank you all, allow me to speak, and oh my God, I'm just so blessed in so many ways. And I just hope that things get better. And I just want to say this lastly. I believe it was 2 weeks ago, I called the landlord and I spoke to about someone smoking marijuana in the building, because that's not a rule to do that. And it's not posted that you're not allowed to smoke marijuana, it just states that no one is allowed to smoke. And it seems like, being that I've been there for I don't know how many years, it's been kind of perpetuating. And so I've been reaching out to them. I really haven't gotten any good responses back for all the reasons, I guess. I just hope for the best. Thank you very much for your time.
Stay safe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathleen Salvo. I believe our nuisance ordinance states that if you can hear it in your apartment, it's a nuisance to you. And we did this in our neighborhood block watch. If somebody's playing a radio next door or across the street and I can hear it in my apartment, like this young lady said she can, it's a violation of a nuisance. And I think you should check the ordinance. John, when I refer to open space, it's not just open space. It also goes height. You're taking a one-story building and you're going 3 stories, 4 stories, 5 stories high, and you're just crushing us all in. You're not doing any setbacks in any of these new buildings. They're on zero line. There's no sidewalk. There's no setbacks. You're just crushing us. You're making us so. I feel like I'm claustrophobic.
The setbacks on the new buildings on Main Street and the side streets are larger than the existing setbacks that were there on the buildings.
Case in point, Uritani, it looks like the Uritani tennis courts there. It looks like the Hoover Dam.
Fence for the tennis courts was closer than what?
It was a tennis court fence. It wasn't a building. The thing is, look, it's scary. It's too dense. And we come to Hackensack for neighborhoods. Why do you have to go in every neighborhood and try to put something in every neighborhood? Leave the neighborhoods the way they're meant to be. Each neighborhood has its own characteristic. Don't try to build up everything and ruin every neighborhood that we have. So that open space is open space. I agree with Regina because I had a heating problem once and I had to wait till the morning. That man didn't come out in the middle of the night. So it's just to his convenience that he's parking that vehicle on a residential street where no commercial vehicles are allowed. So, and if he did have to go get it, he can go right on Newman Street. They have the garage there, and he could pick up the vehicle there and go. When we send emergency vehicles out, we send trucks out. We don't send very free comes at business hours. And I know when my heat was out, they didn't come until the morning, and I had to wait 2 days to that also. So I think I would check that one out. Yeah, the no parking on Summit Avenue. Parking needs to be there. We can't, it's funny here. We take parking away from where it is, and then we put parking where it shouldn't be. Like when we put it on Atlantic Street by the, the Cultural Arts Center. Are we going to share services with the county, since the county paid for our senior citizen person, and she was the one that took charge? Could we get her to come to the senior citizen and M&M that the people tell you that we didn't need because we had it on Hudson Street? Could we share service with her so we don't have to, that'd be one less person?
But we can address it.
And will they be giving us that building back since they used it for senior citizens and now we're going to put them in the M&M building and we're not going to use them for senior citizens anymore? Could we put that back on the tax rolls? That we need ratables?
Possible.
I mean, that would be nice if we shared services. And I think they have one other thing there. Maybe they can come to M&M and use that, and we could save the city some money somewhere along the line. Thank you.
No. You're talking about the Martin Luther King Center?
No, the other end of the Golden Hawks of
On
Kansas.
Hudson and East Kansas Street.
Okay.
That's where our seniors went, and there weren't many of them. And when we did the M&M hearing, we told you we didn't want the senior citizen center there. So now that we relocated it, could we get that person that was running it, and could we get the county would give that building up and put it on the tax rolls?
You brought up.
And that would be nice to get some revenue. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public before I close? Motion to close to the public?
Offered.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
John, you're gonna need another.
Yeah, we're gonna need another 15, possibly a half hour, because we ran so late into our, we have a lot in the back room to discuss. Mike. So,
Mike is just put on the record.
oh, I'm sorry. Mike wasn't on. We're gonna need an additional probably half hour before we come back out due to the length of the Cal meeting. It's unfortunate, but we have business to take care of. Maybe 15, 20 minutes, and we may have to go back in. We'll see. We're gonna get out of here as soon as we can. All right?
We need a motion.
Need a motion to go into closed session, please.
Offered.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack deem it necessary to discuss certain actions under section 7B7 and 7B8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, which pertains to matters falling within attorney-client privilege, ongoing litigation, personnel matters concerning the employment of a current or prospective public employee. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack is of the opinion that such circumstances may presently exist. And whereas the mayor and council wishes to discuss the following issues: personnel matters, ongoing litigation, matters involving attorney-client privilege, matters involving the purchase, lease, or acquisition of real property, any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiations. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack deem it necessary to exclude the public from this discussion. The outcome of the discussion will be disclosed within 90 days or at such time as the interests of the city do not require confidentiality.
Okay, Steve?
Of the matters I have to address, there are none of filed litigation. If that comes up during the course of our closed session, as usual, I will announce it following the closed session.
Thank you.
We did not complete the closed session. We will return to closed session at the conclusion of the regular business meeting. But just for the record, while we were in closed session, we did speak about two cases. One is the Candela litigation, the other is the Rioto litigation, and I wanted to put that on the record now with everybody here. We will make further announcements at the close of the second closed session when we return to that later tonight.
Thank you. We're back out of closed session. I need a motion to
Close that.
close the executive session.
Offer, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Now I need a motion to close the council of the whole.
No, yeah.
Offer.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.